Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this episode, what I want to talk about is doing dumb shit. Listen, if you're a day one listener, if you follow this podcast, you know that probably about 3 years ago, that's my guess, maybe about 3 years ago, I did an episode on, and it was called Doing Dumb Shit. And I talked about some dumb things that I did as a child and as a young person. And the highlight of the episode was the time that I fired a loaded gun in my house and then proceeded to act as if when the gunshot woke everybody up in the house, proceeded to act as if the gun just went off. It's a funny story. I know I just spoiled it for some who didn't hear the episode, but when you're finished with this episode, go back and listen to it. It's my explanation and the subsequent trouble that I got into was downright comical. Still one of the most craziest, well, it's by far it's the craziest thing that I've ever done. And it's the dumbest shit that I've ever done because I could have killed myself or my cousin Eric. But you know, I'm still here. We're here. Shout out to 1988. Anyway, on this episode, what I wanted to talk about, just some other dumb shit that I did as a kid. And here's the thing. We're all individuals and we all make mistakes, right? And if you're being honest, some mistakes are bigger than others. And then sometimes you're just going to do things that just aren't that smart. And here's the thing. I pride myself in being a pretty smart guy. You've listened to this podcast. You've watched me on YouTube. Thank you for watching. I appreciate those who tap in on YouTube. But I pride myself as a smart guy. And I would think that most of you who listen to this podcast, even if you don't know me personally, would be like, yeah, Kyle's pretty smart. But being smart doesn't absolve you from doing something very dumb. And I think all of us, if we're being honest, all of us have done a lot of dumb stuff in our lives. And some has been for public consumption. Fortunately enough for me, this wasn't anything that I did in the public, but I got a couple of stories that I want to share. And these are in no particular order. First up, I was on the campus of South Carolina State University. I think I was a sophomore at the time. And I was living life, enjoying life as I did. I was playing football, and this particular weekend, nothing was going on. Football season was over. I want to say this was like second semester because it was warm. So it was, springtime or whatever like that. And it was one of those weekends where nothing was going on campus, which was rare, but, it was one of those kind of dead weekends or whatever. A lot of people went out of town or whatever. I stayed on campus to kind of kick it. This particular weekend, my roommate at the time, he left as well. So I didn't have my roommate, and then a couple of my boys had gone out of town. So I was kind of solo dolo. And I remember, let me back up. I also was single at the time. My girlfriend at the time and I had broken up. We had been broken up maybe for a couple of months. So, I'm doing the single thing, not really trying to be with anybody, not trying to get in any type of relationships. I had a couple of young ladies that I thought, might be something there, but I was really just too distraught from this relationship to even consider some being with someone else. So had all of that at play. Again, it's a kind of dry weekend or whatever. And I'll never forget, it was a Saturday night. And what happens is when you're on campus, you have times where your cafeteria is open. We call it the caf. So the caf was open, and I think I ate dinner around, I don't know, 4:30. So relatively speaking, that's an early time to eat dinner. And so the caf times that they're open changes on the weekend. So you don't have the big space, because like I think the caf may be open from like 4 to 6 during the week, but on weekend it might be 4 to 5:30 or something like that. So you really don't have a big window of time to eat. And then being a college student, you always run the risk of being hungry later on. And I didn't have anything in my room, any snacks or anything to eat. So I wasn't really paying attention, but I went to dinner and ate dinner. I didn't eat a lot of dinner or whatever. I think I can't even remember what I had, but I didn't eat a lot of it. So I'm still kind of lamenting about this relationship that has failed, and where I failed in the relationship. And not that I'm starving myself, but you get where I'm going here. I'm not eating like I'm supposed to be eating. And I don't want to call it lovesick, but let's just, for lack of a better term, let's just say your boy wasn't starving himself, but he just wasn't eating the way that he should. Nonetheless, fast forward a couple of hours, it's around 10:30, and my stomach is coming through my back like I am starving. And so I'm like, I gotta get something to eat. I gotta get something to eat. And so I'm looking around the room. Of course, there's nothing in the room. And then I, go a couple of rooms down to talk to one of my teammates, and he doesn't have any snacks in his room either. So I'm like, damn. I was like, what am I going to do? And then I got the bright idea of ordering a pizza. And it was ordering pizza was fine at school because that's what everybody did. And the type of pizza, or the pizza place that I ordered from, was a place called Domino's. Pretty popular pizza franchise, especially in the 90s. And so and so I'm thinking, okay, well, what should I order? And you know how, like, when you're ordering food, sometimes your brain tells you what you should do, and your mouth or your body tells you something else. Well, my brain said, hey, get a small pizza. My body said, no, get a medium. And so I was like, all right. And I know Domino's pizzas at that particular time were relatively small. And what I didn't want to do is, I didn't want to eat the pizza and then, be hungry later on, or it not be enough because I'm starving at this point, because I didn't eat breakfast that day. So dinner really was, and I don't think I ate lunch. So dinner was really the only meal that I had on campus that day. And I just had a bunch of water, but I mean, like, I wasn't, eating what I was supposed to be eating. So fast forward, I order a medium pizza from Domino's, right? And I really should have ordered a small, but I ordered a medium, and I think it's like 8 slices. And I get the pizza. It gets to the room, and my first impulse actually is to share the pizza with somebody else, one of my teammates or whatever like that. But when I go to look around, it was almost like I was in the dorm by myself, at least on my hall. Like nobody was in the dorm. Guys had gone out to the club or whatever like that. I was chilling. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna eat this pizza. And I should have probably ate a slice or two, but something in me said, look, you haven't eaten all day. You only ate a little bit for dinner. Just eat the whole pizza. And so I ate 8 slices of pizza. Now, again, the Domino's pizza isn't that big, but the flip side of it is that you really shouldn't consume that kind of pizza or that much food, particularly because now it's about, I don't know, it's about 10:30, 11 o'clock. So let's just say it's 11 o'clock. That's really, really a lot of food to consume. And keep in mind that, one, I don't eat that heavy. And then the timing of it, it'd be different if you ate that at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because you still have time to move around and everything like that. But your boy, doing dumb shit, decides to eat all of the pizza at once. And so I don't even think I had anything to drink with. I may have had a little bit of soda. And I'm full. I'm stuffed. I'm, sitting back. And I was obviously in college, so I'm smaller than what I am now. I might have been, I don't know, 155 pounds soaking wet at this point. And and so silly me decides to eat the pizza and then just chill. And so as I'm chilling, I feel myself getting a little sleepy. So the itis is setting in, and we all know what the itis is. So the itis is setting in, and so I decide to lay down on the bed. And I was like, you know what, man, forget this. I took my clothes off, put my gym shorts on, and I got in the bed. Bad move. Bad move. Because I proceeded to have the worst night as far as sleep in my life. I literally had 4 dreams that night, and it were all bad dreams. And I mean, like, I tossed and I turned. I couldn't, like, there were points in my dreams and points in the night where felt like I was just being roughed up, like I was being punched. I felt like I was in a fight. I don't know what the dreams were about. I can't remember, but it was just like I was restless, and like I tossed and I turned and I tossed and I turned. And if at some point, it was probably around 4 a.m., I got up and I went to the bathroom and to urinate, did that, came back, got in bed, and so you're thinking, okay, well, whatever this is I'm going through, I'm going to feel better once it's done. Wrong move. I felt even worse, right? And so I went back to sleep, and I think I woke up about 8, and it literally felt like I slept 20 minutes. I did not get a good night's sleep at all. And I've never slept like that before. And the only thing that I can attribute it to is having 8 slices of pizza before I went to bed. Folks, listen, that is one of the dumbest things I've ever done. Like, I don't eat like that. Some people do, but even me, realistically, 3 slices is enough of pizza. If you want to push it, maybe 4. And that's even with a small pizza, but you shouldn't eat a whole pizza, a whole medium-sized pizza by yourself. That's not smart. And I didn't have indigestion or anything like that. It was a rough night. And I attribute that to, eating, Domino's pizza late at night and then falling asleep. It would have been different if I had eaten the pizza and then, I don't know, let's just say I went out to the club. Then you can kind of dance it off, sweat it out, or whatever the case may be. But to eat like that and then to fall asleep, dumb. Just very dumb. For a very smart guy, that was pretty dumb. What else? No, the next thing, dumb thing I did. I was a young man at the time. My girlfriend, my then girlfriend, now wife, Sharice, she was pregnant. We were pregnant with our first son. And our first child. And so this is 1999, August of 1999, August 9th to be exact, August 9th, 1999. Some at the time of this recording, 25 years ago. And it's amazing because I remember that day becoming a father for the first time. And listen, for those of you who are parents, you'll never forget the day that you became a parent for the first time. It is something beautiful. It is something special. Watching the childbirth process is something totally different. I'd heard stories. I'd heard about guys passing out. I'd heard about the blood and all that stuff like that, but I wasn't really focused on that. So, we're living together here in Atlanta, and Sharice is having contractions or what have you. And so, she said, hey, we need to go to the hospital because the contractions were like 5 minutes apart. So we do the whole thing. You get the bag, you go to the hospital, and we wait. And then they have a walk around. She's walking around doing squats and so what they do is they have you walk around the hospital, because I think she was at like 4 centimeters dilated, and you walk around. There's an area that you would walk around in the hospital, and then like she'd have to do every time she got a contraction, she'd literally have to do a squat like you're in the gym. And so she gets to like 8 centimeters, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to put her in a room. So they put her in a room, and so it's time for the birth of our son. And it's almost time for Dion to get here. And I did something incredibly dumb. What I learned is, like, when a woman is in labor, it's best for the man to just shut up. There's nothing for you to say. You're there to be the comforter. You're not there to talk. And I made a huge mistake in the delivery room. There was this machine right next to the bed that was telling us, or at least alerting the doctors and the nurses, when the next contraction was coming. And I found this machine to be fascinating because, like, I'd never been in a delivery room before. Hell, I'd never held a baby before. And so what was happening was on the monitor, you could see a contraction actually before it happened. And I was fascinated. And in my fascination and being overzealous, I made the mistake of telling Sharice, ooh, 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 here comes a contraction. And she can clearly feel the contraction. But the thing was that you could actually see the contraction on the way. You see the waves on the machine moving before it actually hit her. And it was only like maybe a 2 or 3 second delay between the two. But I said that. And I think the first time she just ignored me because obviously she's in pain. She did not get an epidural. She did not get any medicine. She delivered Dion, naturally, which I've been told is painful. Right. And so it happened again. And I'm like, ooh, here comes a contraction, baby. Here comes a contraction. And she let me slide the second time. And then it happened again. And I was like, here it comes. And she looked up because at this point I'm beside her, but a little bit above her head. She looked up at me with those big brown eyes, and she gave me the meanest look that you would ever want to give. And she said, if you don't shut the hell up. And from that moment on, through the rest of the delivery, I didn't say anything. I was there to cut the cord once Dion came out. It was a lot of blood and stuff, but who cares? Nobody pays attention to that stuff. I mean, I was happy that my son was here and he was healthy and he cried and it was all good. But yeah, that was one of the dumbest things that I've done as a young adult. Like, you don't tell a woman who's in the delivery room, who's delivering a baby, you don't tell her when a contraction is coming. She can clearly feel it. That has to be the dumbest thing that you can do, to be like, hey, here comes a contraction. Even if you know that it's coming, you're not supposed to say anything, right? You're supposed to just shut up and just be there for the birth of your child. Fellas, PSA, don't announce the contractions when you see them coming. She can feel it. We've never been pregnant. We'll never be pregnant. So we'll never know the pain or the joy it is in delivering a child into the world. But no, just shut your mouth. There's nothing for you to say. Just sit there, be quiet, be the coach, and be the comforter. That's all that you're needed to do. Now it's time for a quick commercial break. On the other side, I'll give you one more story before we get out of here. Sit tight. We'll be back in just a second. Are you feeling nostalgic for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul Podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shaped the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast and enjoy the vibes. And just like that, we are back. Once again, it's your boy 12 Kyle. This is the 12 Kyle Podcast, and we're talking about doing dumb shit. Before the break, I gave you a couple of examples of some dumb things that your boy did. In spite of being pretty smart, I found myself in dumb situations. And this last one kind of takes the cake. As I mentioned before, I played football at South Carolina State University. When I was a redshirt sophomore, we made the trip from Orangeburg, South Carolina to Indianapolis to play against Jackson State in the Circle City Classic. And the game was televised nationally on the BET. And it was a great event. Circle City Classic is one of the premier classic bowl games, if you will, in Black college football. And we aren't in the same conference as Jackson State, so we don't play them often. So it was a chance to, one, leave the state, two, play on national TV, which is always good for recruiting, and then be someplace that I'd never been before. I'd never been to Indianapolis before, and Indianapolis seemed to be a really cool city. Didn't really get a chance to see much of it because we were there to play football, but the little bit I did see, moving around downtown a little bit, seemed like a pretty cool place. Whatever. Indianapolis did not give me the vibes that you would think of when you think of Indiana, or at least what was portrayed to me of Indiana, leading up until that point. So this is like 93, I think. Yeah, 1993. We're playing against Jackson State, and the game is going on, and we are blowing Jackson State out. I mean, like, smashing them. And it felt good. And I wasn't playing that much at the time. I was a backup. And so fast forward, we're winning the game, and it's 34 to 6. We have 34 points. They have 6 points. Now, in most football games, that's, a pretty sizable lead. You're probably not going to relinquish the lead. But there's 60 minutes to a football game, and you have to play the game 60 minutes. I mean, that goes without saying. So I remember distinctly, and I will never forget this in my life. We came to the sideline. Again, we're up 34 to 6. We came to the sideline, and Coach Edwin Bailey, shout out to Coach Bailey. Coach Bailey played several years with the Seattle Seahawks. Coach Bailey, who was our offensive line coach, Coach Bailey brought us. He brought us all together on the sideline, and he said, "Hey, this game is not over." He's like, "We're going to put it in the second string, but this game is not over. You guys continue to play hard because they're not going to quit." And I'll be honest, and I love Coach Bailey, man, and I always listen to what he had to say, but I was like, this game is over, Jack. We're about to smash these dudes. And what was beautiful was the game was played in the old Hoosier Dome, which is now no longer there. They demolished it for the new football field where the Indianapolis Colts play. But it was a home field for the Indianapolis Colts of the NFL. And so we're in the Hoosier Dome, and it's 60,000 black people in the stands. And I mean, like, it was beautiful. They had the Indiana Black Expo that particular weekend. So it was a lot of people in the stands. There was they were also celebrating like HBCU queens and everything. They were lined up on the field in like the smaller version of some stands right behind our bench, or right to the side of our bench. And so you had these beautiful black women. You had these other beautiful black women from these campuses. So we were like being funny. We were trying to talk to them and stuff during the game. I mean, like, we were just relaxed. And then so when they said it, we're going to put in the second unit. So that was my unit. So I was like, okay, well, we're going in the game. And so we go in the game. And again, we're up 34 to 6. Like, the game was a wash pretty much, right? And so you take the starters out. The starters, they're on the sideline drinking Gatorade. They got the pads off and everything. They're relaxing. And the game was over until it wasn't. So my unit, the second unit, proceeded to turn the ball over on 2 consecutive possessions. And they resulted in 2 quick touchdowns. I mean, quick touchdowns. And now, all of a sudden, Jackson State is back in the game. And one touchdown they got was from a fumble snap in between the exchange between the quarterback and our running back. and they got the ball on like the 10-yard line, and they ran a couple of plays and scored. And so like it was pretty intense because at this point, now Jackson State's building some momentum and they think that they have a chance. Well, they pulled our asses out of there. Coach got us out of the game, and he puts back in the starters. And the starters, now they're cold because they've been sitting on the sideline. The quarterback was over there. He had his helmet off. I think he may have taken his shoulder pads off, or at least a couple of guys did. And so like now we got to try to figure this thing out. And it was bad. It was bad. Like almost everything that you could think wasn't supposed to happen happened. I remember they scored again, and then they kicked an onside kick, and my boy, I ain't gonna call his name, Bruce Robinson, fumbled the ball, and they got the ball back. And so now they are driving for a potential, because I think the score at this point was 34 to, I think they were down by a touchdown. And so they're driving. And so now the crowd is going crazy because all of the Jackson State fans who thought that they were going to lose are going crazy. Our fans are going crazy because we're about to blow this game. Like we're really about to, blow a huge lead that we shouldn't have. I mean, the game was way closer than it should have been. And I'm on the sideline like, this is crazy. Like, I can't believe it. And one of the things that hurt us that particular game was not only the turnovers, but we had a lot of penalties. We had a bunch of penalties, especially in the second half. And so I remember we scored a touchdown and somebody got a penalty for celebrating. And our coach, man, Coach Jeffries, love Coach J. Shout out to Coach J. I know he's watching and listening. Coach J was furious. And I've seen Coach J upset. I've never seen him that upset because, a celebration penalty is a bonehead penalty. Like you don't need that type of penalty because it kills your drives. So anyway, Jackson State is running down the field and they're about to score. And so they score a touchdown. And there's only like maybe, I think, 2 minutes left in the game. And so by this time, the momentum is all on Jackson State's side, right? And so they score. And so the score is 34 to 33. If Jackson State kicks an extra point and gets it, the game is tied, right? But Jackson State decides to go for two. So now, if they go for two and they get the 2-point conversion, they're now ahead 35 to 34. And we would have blown a huge lead. Again, mathematically, you're not supposed to lose that game because of the time frame in which we had and the lead that we had and how well we played up until that point. There's no way we were supposed to lose that game. So they line up and they run a reverse. And when they ran the reverse, our outside linebacker, Patrick Scott, we call him High Top. Shout out to High Top. High Top makes an incredible play. He grabs the guy by one. I mean, like if this guy gets outside of High Top, they score. High Top grabs him one hand, slings him down. And our side is going crazy. Everybody's going crazy. We're going crazy on the bench. And I did something dumb. I did something very dumb, but my heart was in the right in the right place. So that happened. And so I'm excited. I'm overjoyed. And I run out onto the field to greet High Top. And High Top picks me up in his arms. And High Top is like 6'6", like 250 pounds. So he picks me up and we're celebrating. And he puts me down and we're celebrating. But I'm on the field. And I didn't participate in the play and I don't have my helmet on. So the referees don't know who I am. They could have, not that they would have, but they could have easily thrown a flag for celebrating or too many men on the field. They could have, if they wanted to, they could have tripped, right? But I was on the field. I wasn't supposed to be on the field. I could have easily waited until High Top and the rest of my teammates came off the field to the sideline. And I blanked out. I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. I just kind of lost it. But I was doing dumb shit. And you ever feel like somebody was watching you? Have you ever felt like something was about to happen to you? Well, unbeknownst to me, Coach J is behind me. And I feel the X-ray vision from his eyes burning through my skin because I felt something hot on my neck. And I turn around and Coach J is literally about 5 yards away from me, and he's running toward me because he was coming out there to strangle me. And it took me a second to kind of process. I'm like, well, why is Coach J? And he's yelling, but I can't hear him because the crowd is going crazy. And I don't know, like, nobody said, like, hey, get off the field. I was just on the field celebrating, right? And I don't know. I don't know why I was there. I just lost it for a second. But anyway, Coach J was coming to get me off that damn field. And he was running as fast as he could in his 60-year-old body. And I turned around, and when I felt him, I felt the heat from his energy coming toward me. I turned around, and I see him running and yelling at me. And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm not supposed to be on the field. And so I dart off the field to the sideline. I mean, listen, I am so glad that social media does not exist or did not exist in 1993, because if someone had seen this and captured it on video, I would get shacked in a fool. I'd be the donkey of the day. I'd be the butt of every joke. I would be on every highlight because it was. But the only people that saw it was my teammates, or at least some of my teammates. Everybody didn't even see it. And so, man, Coach J. So I ran to the sideline, and all I heard him say was, "You stay your ass on that bench." Now, keep in mind, there's only 2 minutes left in the game, but I was told to sit down and not move. And listen, I've known Coach J because Coach J coached my uncle. My uncle's Harry Carson. He played at South Carolina State as well in the 70s, and he is a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame after a 13-year career with the New York Football Giants. Champion of Super Bowl 21. He is the godfather of the Gatorade dunk, if you did not know. But I've known Coach J in his relationship with my uncle and my family. I've known Coach J probably since I was like 5 years old, or maybe probably before that. But I've never seen him mad at me. He's never been mad at me. But man, oh man, Coach J was gonna kill me. If I hadn't turned around, he might have choke slammed me right there on the field. Like, he might have gotten a flag thrown on him for beating up a play. So I go to the sideline, I sit down, and I'm just over there, and one of my teammates comes and sits next to me. And I at this point, I don't know who saw anything. And he said, "Man, what was the hell what the hell was you doing on the field?" And to this day, I have no idea. I have no explanation as to why I was on the field. I wanted to celebrate my teammates because we had basically sealed the victory. Even though the game wasn't over, we had basically sealed the victory. And I was happy because we almost lost that game. But that was one of the few games, actually the only game that I can remember where we won, but it felt like we lost. In fact, the newspaper the next day said that, it made the comment that both teams learned a lesson in that game. And we learned a huge lesson. I mean, like, that was a game that we won. And I remember even going back to the hotel, and there were a lot of alumni and stuff there. And there was a party downstairs. Like, listen, I didn't go anywhere. I got my food. I went to my room, and I felt bad because, like, I could have put us in a situation where, I could have put us in a situation where we could have gotten a flag, and they would have had a chance to, run that play again or run another play. And I also felt bad because Coach J was mad at me. And I don't like, for the people that I care about, I don't want anybody to be mad at me. Now, if I don't care about you, I can give a shit less if you're mad at me. I ain't gonna lose no sleep over that. But I was doing dumb shit, and it wasn't intentional, but sometimes we just do dumb shit. I was so glad that there were no cameras to catch it, because if they did, you'd get a laugh too. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. The podcast can be found wherever you get your podcast, and we're giving them out for free, so check them out. We're also on social media. You can catch us on social media at 12 Kyle, at 12 Kyle Podcast, on every social media platform. And we're on TikTok as well. We have a YouTube channel. Go there, 12 Kyle Podcast, and subscribe and share it with your friends. We really appreciate it. If you are into merch, you can help us out financially by purchasing merch. In the description box, there's a link that says merch. Click that link and buy 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, and coffee mugs. We got it for the low. And lastly, we have a new baby. It's called the Rap Soul Podcast. The Rap Soul Podcast is a podcast, a music podcast. It's the best music podcast that you've never heard. It's where we talk about hip hop, rap, R&B, and soul music from the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. Again, it's the best music podcast that you've never heard. We drop new episodes every Monday. So tap into that. You can find that on YouTube as well as wherever you get your podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. I am your boy 12 Kyle, just telling you another time about where I did some dumb shit. Who knows? There may be a part 3. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys next time. 5Gs. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.